Welcome, Extended Gamut Podcast, Episode 9.
Episode 9.
We took a little break.
Christmas break.
We were here before Christmas, and we had a busy January, but we're getting back to it. We got a couple podcasts lined up. The comments were piling up, so we're trying to clear the deck here. So we're excited. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Andy, episode 9. What do we have in store for today?
Well, we got a couple months worth of things to catch up on. We did some shows. We got some shows coming up. Got some printers we want to make sure we highlight that have come out. So, and then we got a couple questions we're going to get to.
Perfect.
What should we start with?
Well, let's talk about trade shows. Now we're in 2023. I think everyone was wondering, trade shows, are they gone forever? Did they make a resurgence in 2022 because people were just dying to get out? And then what happens in 2023? I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. I know Printing United was in October of 2022, and that was a wildly popular show.
Yep.
Heavy attendees. I think close to 30,000 people.
Yeah. And that's been the biggest show pre-COVID. So, yeah, part of my thought was, well, I wonder if that show is just going to draw really well and some of the other regional ones might fall back. But you just did a regional show.
Yeah, we were just at the ISS, so the Imprinted Sportswear Show in Long Beach, which is for garment decorators primarily. So that's t-shirt printing, dye sublimation, and just all sorts of garment decoration. And it was heavily attended. And this is like a different crowd than you would see at Printing United. I feel like Printing United is a lot of like business owners, print shop owners that are running, medium to large print operations. And the ISS show sometimes is people doing these little side gigs, or it's screen print shops, business owners as well, but like almost like a whole new set of people. Mm-hmm. So to see both heavily attended, it was interesting.
Yeah.
But exciting.
Yeah. It's good news for the industry.
Yeah. The phenomena there is this direct-to-film transfer. They have a bunch of names: DTF, FTF,
FTG,
DT Film. I think it came out in 2021 at the show. It started to like have popularity, and then, or should I say 2022, it started to show up. And then we were watching it all year and wondering what was going on. And my main observation is DTF is not going away.
Yep.
If anything, it's going to be a new part of it all. And it's just understanding, how does it fit into people's business? How does it fit into, our business? How are people using it?
Yep.
So I think my main thing was like, it's really, I see it as replacing the weeding on those vinyl transfers. It's not necessarily like people were printing a t-shirt and they're like, oh, I want to stop printing on t-shirts. I'm just going to print these transfers. And as I met with a bunch of people and did some research and listened to some talks, it was like there's this excruciating process of printing onto vinyl transfers and then weeding them. And people are using direct-to-film to replace that. But at the same time, they're able to use their t-shirt printers to create those. Mm-hmm. So it's just an interesting, I was hearing from a lot of different speakers on that. And so it'll be interesting. So we're keeping an eye on it. And we've actually had a bunch of different questions. So we're trying to figure out how to best approach that maybe in a future podcast.
Yeah, we had one comment just asking for a DTF whole episode of the extended gamut to go into DTF. So maybe we'll do that, go into some of the costs and different ways that people are doing it, solutions we support, maybe other ones that are available. Yeah. I think that'd be something new that a lot of people are trying to research and understand. So if we can help point people in the right direction. Yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, ISS Long Beach was good. And then looking ahead, we have ISA coming up in, what month is that, April?
Yeah, still a couple months away.
Okay.
But we were designing our booth this morning and getting things ready, which printers we're going to ship. So it's on our mind. But what do you think? It's going to be in Vegas again.
Yeah, back-to-back Vegas, Printing United, and then ISA. I feel like Vegas in the spring, it attracts people there. You know, there's things to see, so I think it gives you the best chance of drawing in a crowd. It'll be interesting since there was one just there. You know, what happens? Yeah. And then I'm sure a bunch of the manufacturers are rushing to try to finish products and make sure they're in so that they can
get them launched. Yeah,
launch something.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to it. We'll be there. And
yeah,
if you listen to this podcast, it's probably a show that you're thinking about going to as well. So
if you need free expo passes, you can reach out and we'll hook you up.
Perfect. That's very generous of you.
Yeah, no, out of my pocket.
Awesome.
Should we talk about some of the printers that we might show at ISA, some of the new ones?
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking this is the first episode of the new year. So a lot of people have announced printers, and we feel like there's some new printers that have been announced that have just started shipping or are about to ship that I get excited about for 2023.
Yeah.
So I picked 3, and you were like, I like those 3. I think that's a good 3. So printer 1 that you're most excited about, or that's in your top 3?
Yeah. So the new Dysa from Epson. So it's the 44-inch F6470 and F6470H.
Okay.
So we just did a video a couple months back on that printer. We'll do another overview kind of video in our next shoot. But 44 inches, dedicated to precision, high quality, which typically has its most benefit in hard substrate. So being able to see that sharp dot for metal prints or mugs or coasters or whatever you're doing. But then also to be able to have the flexibility to do, textiles and fabrics with fluorescent inks. And then now with these 2 additional channels, you can do light cyan and light magenta for better gradients, or you can go extended gamut with violet and orange. So or fluorescent yellow and fluorescent pink, but that's not new.
Or none of them. And pick up a bunch of speed.
Yeah.
But those 2 aren't new.
Yeah. So we should get the printers shortly, and we'll dive into them, and then we'll be able to give some more feedback.
Yeah. It's one of those where I think you could have a friendly wager on, all right, which one's going to be most popular, which is,
Yeah.
Are people going to say, well, I can just print a lot faster because there's a larger print head and this unit prints faster and it can print in a couple different modes? Or are people going to say, no, I want the light cyan, light magenta? Are people going to get better color gamut with the other option? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a big step forward, though, like no matter how you slice it. Even just with the ink bags, instead of pouring them in, snapping them in. It's going to be... Yeah, I think anyone who has an F6370, even if you got it recently, is going to be like, oh, I could see upgrading pretty quickly to this one because it's that much better.
Yeah. I know Epson's first wave of shipments is on its way in, but they've already sold out. And now they're waiting for the second wave to come in. But it shouldn't be far behind, but so that's an exciting one. And then we have the D1070, which we've been talking about for... pretty long time.
Yeah, like over a year and a half.
We got some YouTube comments that weren't necessarily nice.
Yeah, they hurt your feelings.
Yeah, I felt like we're waiting for them too. Please be kind.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been a long time. But
we got one
we have ours, so that means they're actually being built.
Yeah.
And we have a few to customers now too. So D1070, it's a dry lab, 8-inch wide, high-speed photo printer.
Yep.
Ability to do sheet stock, double-sided, so that's pretty cool. So for invitations or card stock or different applications you might not really be able to do well now with the printers that we sell. We got more videos coming out on that too.
Okay. So that's 2 from Epson, and then there's another one from HP that, It really got like launched, I would say, right at Printing United, started shipping, but it's relatively new, and it's a cool printer, but it's a big printer, and that's the Latex 2700. So this is the replacement for the 1500?
Yep. Will be the replacement.
Or will be a replacement? Right now, the 1500 is still a printer, and then you have the 2700 that it maybe sits
right
above the 1500, but below what they have is the 3600 currently. Was the 3000, 3500.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So 126 inches wide and capable of using white ink. So that's the big draw of this new model. It's first 3-meter machine from HP that does white ink.
Yeah.
And, brings a lot of the 4th generation ink technology. So extended 20% larger gamut, higher speed, different print head configuration, a lot of really good stuff.
Great. I know we were able to sell the first one, so we had the first install in the country, and so far the customers loved it. So
yeah, so we've got an 8-inch printer and a 126-inch printer, so we got you covered.
There you have it. Yeah, so those are the top 3 printers that I think we're most excited for, just to see how the market receives them. Everyone talks recession, but every time we've been to these shows, no one's talking like that. They're talking investment in my business. What can I do to be more efficient? So it'll just be interesting how the news and media and what they're portraying, but then what's really happening in the real world. And now new technology comes out from something that's $2,000 up to $200,000, and how has it impacted? So
yep,
it's fun to watch.
We will see.
We'll see.
We'll do this podcast January 2024, looking back like, whoops, I guess we had a massive recession. None of us saw it coming. Or not.
Bitcoin still going to 150,000?
150 million.
All right, let's get into some questions. We're going to tackle 3 questions here today. Our first one.
Should I do the first one?
Yeah, was it on the 9570 and ink? Yeah.
So this was a very specific question, but I'm going to try and just go through how you would calculate this and how you can use it maybe for a different printer, a different application, whatever. Do you have the question there? Do you want to read the question?
I think the question was like asking, I'm doing panoramic prints, and this was a question related to our best printer for Canvas. And the question was around, if I have a whole set of ink, how many prints at a certain size could I get?
Yeah. All right. So you don't have the question. I have. So the question I have.
Sorry, to be clear, I do not have the question, but I could summarize it.
Okay. So this is from K. Walkowski.
Okay.
Walkowski. It was on that best printer for Canvas. So he had 2 questions. The first part was about calculating the cost per print. So I'm just going to walk through. He was asking about the P9570, or the P9570. So we'll just
Kim Walkowski.
Yeah, Kimmy K Wall. All right. Here was what the question was. It was how many. What's the cost to print a 32-inch by 60-inch panoramic canvas?
Okay.
So the ink cost for a 32-inch by 60-inch panoramic canvas. And this is on the P9570, so the aqueous printer. So I'm just going to run through how I would calculate this, and then you can, maybe this will be useful information as you're calculating. So the first thing I do is I convert it into square inches. Because if you're going to do 32 by 60, trying to change that into feet is difficult. So if you just take 32 times 60, that's 1,920 square inches. And then you divide that by 144, which is what a square foot is in inches, 12 by 12. You get 13.33 square feet. So this is a big print. So it's, this is as big as you're going to print for like a photo print. All right. So that gives you your square feet, but in order to get the cost per print, you need to know how many milliliters of ink you're going to use. And this will just use a ballpark because we don't know what image he's printing. You'd be able to find this if you printed the one image that size and look in Epson's accounting tool, or, on a HP, you could look in their their web utility. You could use Epson Cloud Solution Port. There's different ways to get this information, but for this, we know that the P9570 will use between 1 and 1.5 milliliters of ink per square foot on canvas.
And most of this is full coverage, because if you're printing a panoramic, most of the time you're not just leaving white space.
Yeah, so it's probably going to be more on the heavier side, but if it's not full coverage, closer to 1. If it is, closer to 1.5.
And you said per square foot.
Yep.
Right.
Per square foot, because now we know the square feet.
Okay.
So we know the square feet, and we know the number of milliliters per square foot in a range. So now we need to know the so if we take that range, 13.33, and we multiply it by 1 and 1.5, that gives us our range in terms of milliliters of ink.
Yeah.
So 13.33 milliliters to 20 milliliters of ink.
Okay.
So now we have to get the cost. So in this case, you're using a cartridge it's $259 for 700 milliliters. So you would take $259. So it's cost per milliliter. So I always do this in my head, but you take the dollar sign. So it's the cost per milliliter. So you want to take the cost of the cartridge divided by 700 milliliters. So in this case, you're at 37 cents per milliliter. So now you have your cost per milliliter. You have your range of milliliters that you're going to use on this panoramic print. So you would multiply your cost of 37 cents times each end of that range, and you're going to end up with $4.93 on the bottom and $7.40 on the top as a range. So now you have a general sense for...
And that's ink on a panoramic.
Cost
Okay.
on this specific panoramic. Yep.
So you'd still have to add in what your canvas cost.
Yep.
You'd add in what the bars would cost.
You could put in your printer if you want to try.
If you put any sort of print shield, you could look at that. But you're on your way.
You're on your way. You got your baseline ink cost.
Okay.
So then the other second part of this question quickly is how many prints could you get from an ink set? And so this is pretty straightforward, but you would take in any printer, we get this question a lot actually. You take the number of inks. So this is a 12 channel ink set. So 12 inks. Each cartridge is 700 milliliters. We're using the big cartridges in this case.
So what is that, 8,400?
8,400 milliliters on board. So when you put in a brand new set of ink, that's what it's going to have on board. So you take 8,400, and if you wanted to say how many of this specific print could you put in, you would use your range again. So 13.33 milliliters to 20 milliliters on each print. And you would be able to print between 420 and 646 prints in an ink set. So you're not going to use all those inks evenly, right? Like you might use a lot more black than the others.
Depending on the image. But in general, a full set's going to give you 400 to 700 prints.
Yep.
At that size, which is a large size.
Yeah, which is a huge size.
This is actually a really common question we get when people buy T-shirt printers too. They say, well, how many T-shirts am I going to get with my set of ink? Because they're trying to think, how much is a set of ink? If it's whatever, $200 for a cartridge, and there's 6 cartridges for $1,200, how many T-shirts can I print? So it's very similar math that can be applied. So, wow, Professor Everding.
There you go.
Very nice. We learned how to convert square inches from square feet, cost per milliliter.
There you go. Hopefully
All
that's
sorts
useful.
of math. Wow.
All right, you want to do a question?
Well done. Mine doesn't have anything to do with math.
No,
it has to do with weightlifting, one of the things that are near and dear to my heart.
Weightlifting, yeah.
What? That's not funny.
That's pretty funny.
This is serious.
All right. So your question was I like this guy's name. It was Netherlands Neanderthal.
Okay.
What was his name?
Shout out to Netherlands Neanderthal.
Yep.
Neanderthal.
He asked, how do you load a roll onto this latex 2700? This was the one of the printers we were just talking about, but we did a video on that printer. So if it's 3 meters wide,
how would you get the roll onto the printer?
How do you get a heavy roll like that onto the printer? And it supports something like with the jumbo rolls, it's like a ridiculous amount of weight. Just the standard rolls, it's 400 pounds. So how do you get something that big onto the printer so that you can start printing that roll of paper?
Well, there's someone in the industry that figured out that was a problem and has partnered with a lot of these major manufacturers like HP, EFI, Agfa, Mamaki, Roland, and created basically a line of machines that can help. So the company is Foster. So you probably know that because back in the day there was Foster Keen Cut and there was the Roto Trim and there was all these different things. Foster and Keen Cut have sort of like separated and they're both doing different things. But on the Foster side of things, they have a line called the On a Roll Lifters. And there's a sort of a wild display of, it's not just one lifter, it's different types of lifters, and they have all sorts of questions they would ask you. But we sell a lot of these, especially when we sell printers like this. Usually they'll throw in one of these.
They throw it in?
One of these lifters. No, the customer would order it.
Oh, I got you.
It ranges from about, I think it's about $2,500 to $3,500 for something like this. But if you think about if I have a roll and I either have to hire 2 people or I can have one person that's loading rolls, it's not a huge thing, especially when you're buying a $200,000 or $300,000 printer. Mm-hmm. But Foster On a Roll, as I was diving in, how do you know which one is right for you? They have some that are manual. They have some that are automatic. Manual meaning like it's like a step pump, hydraulics. If you think about
like a what's that called? The dolly that you have in the warehouse where you
for all the skids and everything.
Yeah. The hand truck.
Yeah. So there's manual, there's automatic in that version too. So really it's like you need to know what is the maximum roll weight, diameter, and width that you're loading. So a lot of that's going to depend on your printer. You're going to want to know how high do you have to lift it. Different printers. You have to also think it's not just loading it onto the printer. It's where am I going to store this roll? And sometimes people will store the rolls up and then they need to go get them. And if you think about it, if you had a machine like this that you could store huge, heavy rolls high because they're big and free up space because you have this tool anyways, it could help for efficiency as well.
Yeah.
So it's how high do I need to lift it? And a lot of times it's not to get it onto the printer. It's where are you gonna be pulling it from? And then do you need manual or motorized? And that's going to have to do with the weight and just a bunch of different things. And then you're just looking at like obstructions on the floor and clearance because these rolls are, could be 126 inches wide. So that's, 10 to 12 feet. Yeah. So, we have people that can answer questions. They have a variety of things. We sell this. It's not like we're moving hundreds of these, but it takes a couple hands probably to count how many we're moving in the course of a year. And, So that would be an answer. We got all sorts of accessories, but go-foster.com. Or you can go to our website, itsupplies.com.
If you ever go to HP's facility in Atlanta, Alpharetta, they have these there, so you can check out. If you're getting a demo on the printer, we can give you a demo on the lifter they use, and
Yeah, so if you don't have my biceps, you're probably going to need an on a roll lifter.
For the little photo printers.
Yeah, definitely.
24-inch rolls.
Oh, D1070. Next question.
Oh, man.
We got a question about the software on the D1070.
Yeah, this is one that has come up a couple times. So the D1070, that's the Epson DryLab little photo printer, 8-inch wide printer. People want to know, one of the nice things about the D1070 is you can literally hit Control P to print from the Windows, from a folder in Windows and start printing. It's very user friendly. But if you are trying to do more of a production, it's not always the most efficient way to print a lot of the same,
right?
Or nest files, whatever. So there is a solution. We sell it. It's from Mirage. It's called Mirage. It's their Epson Lab edition, but It will allow you to drive up to 8 printers. So 8 of the D1070 printers, and it's only $650.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a well priced. It's probably something you could use even if you're just even if you're not in heavy production. It has some nice features to be able to just use your printer more easily. It's not a full scale rip, so it doesn't have a postscript capability, but it has a lot of the things you would see in a typical rip. So it's got like drag and drop and cues and nesting, color management. You can import ICCs.
Okay.
You can print PDFs, which mimics a PostScript type capability. JPEGs, TIFFs. And then the other thing that's nice is you can set up workflows with, the print and media settings that you're going to use. So this is the closest thing we have to a rip for the D1070 right now. Epson has a piece of software called Order Controller that's been available in Europe, that it sounds like they're going to make available here in the US. I haven't seen it yet. That would it's kind of like a back-end kiosk management type. That's what it's made for, but it can also help with, just order workflow. So that could be something as well. But that's if you're using the D1070 in production, this would be the piece of software we would recommend and would let you to drive up to 8 printers.
Okay. I feel like I haven't heard much about Mirages in general, just in the world. That oasis in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
It's a Mirage, right?
Yeah, it's a Mirage. I think it's more of a kid's thing. It's like when we were kids.
Yeah, in a cartoon or something.
Yeah.
Let's bring back the Mirage.
It's a good car name. Do they have a Mirage car?
Yeah, I don't know that it's a good car, though.
I think there is one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mitsubishi.
Oh, yeah.
Mirage. You can buy one. Why don't you buy one and test it out?
I learned that Mitsubishi, they're just a parts bin. They don't actually, they just get car parts from all different manufacturers and put them together into cars. And so some of the cars are good and most are bad.
What's the greatest Mitsubishi ever created?
Eclipse, obviously. 1994.
You think?
No, I don't know. I loved it when I was an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Then they came out with the other style of it. What about the 3000?
Yeah, the 3000, near and dear to our owner's heart.
What about the Galant?
That's a car too. We should start
Andy
another podcast.
Andy and I could go for a long time about cars and random names and
yeah, Montero.
There you go.
We should wrap this though.
All right, we should wrap this. Thanks for hanging with us for the last 20 or so minutes. Hopefully you learned a few things about calculating your ink cost, lifting heavy rolls if you don't have large biceps, running a fleet of D1070s if you don't want to use just the standard driver. You got to hear some of our thoughts on some hot printers, thoughts on trade shows in general. As always, comment on our videos. Go to our site, itsupplies.com/questions.
Yes.
And submit your questions. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.